The Detroit Lions have just been hit hard by news that could completely change the course of their season. The defense, which was finally beginning to gel and inspire confidence, has just lost one of its most promising players, and according to Dan Campbell, for a long time. The coach confirmed that second-year cornerback Terrion Arnold suffered a serious injury and will be sidelined for an extended period. And the impact is enormous, because Arnold wasn't just another player. He was establishing himself as a cornerstone of the Lions secondary. This has just happened and is already dominating all the conversations in Detroit. Before we get into the details of this update, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and activate the bell, because here you'll stay up to date with everything happening with our Detroit Lions, and what's coming could be worrying. Dan Campbell was direct but enigmatic. When asked about the severity of the injury, he gave one of those answers that chills any fan. It's going to take a while. And when Campbell talks like this, it's serious. He didn't confirm whether it's a season-ending injury, but he didn't rule it out either. The truth is, no one knows for sure how long Arnold will be out, only that it will be a long one. And for a team already dealing with a series of physical issues, losing a young talent like him is a heavy blow. Arnold had been playing injured, battling groin and shoulder pain for weeks, but he remained on the field, displaying a tenacity that made him one of the most respected names in the locker room. Even playing at 75%, as he himself admitted, his performance was above the average of many 100% healthy players. But this time, his body couldn't handle it. The scene was painful. Arnold left the field visibly frustrated, and anyone watching the game against the Bengals knew something wasn't right. It was the kind of injury fans recognized by the silence in the stadium. Campbell praised the player for his effort, saying Arnold had been a warrior, but admitted that the team will need to learn to live without him, at least for now. And that puts the Lions' defense in a delicate situation, because Arnold wasn't the only one out. Campbell also confirmed that Khalil Dorsey is out for a while, meaning the secondary is now in emergency mode. DJ Reed is already on injured reserve, and suddenly, what was one of the team's most promising areas has become a minefield. Now the Lions will have to rely on names like Amik Robertson, Rock Ya-Sin, Trey Flowers, and Nick Whiteside to hold down the fort. Robertson, for example, played every defensive snap against the Bengals. He even managed an interception, but was also burned by Jamar Chase on a 62-yard touchdown run, the kind of play that leaves any fan tearing their hair out. After the game, he owned up to the mistake, called himself greedy, and promised to fix it. This transparency is commendable, but it exposes a larger problem: how slim the margin for error is on this defense right now. Detroit is at a point where every wrong play can be costly, and without depth, the pressure only increases. And if there's one thing Dan Campbell doesn't do, it's pat anyone on the head. His response was typical Campbell style: tough, direct, and without room for drama. This train doesn't stop for anyone. No one feels sorry for you, the coach said, reaffirming his next man up philosophy. It's the kind of mentality that defines the DNA of today's Lions: resilient, determined, but also relentless. And defensive coordinator Calvin Shepard reinforced this message, saying the group is fully committed to the system and the idea that no one is irreplaceable. But there's a big difference between rhetoric and reality, because as well-tuned as the Lions' defensive system may be, it relies heavily on the individual talent of the players. And without Terrion Arnold, Dorsey, and DJ Reed out, the system is starting to become vulnerable. It's like trying to keep a wall standing with half the bricks missing. And the biggest concern is timing. We're entering a crucial phase of the season where every win can determine home field advantage and playoff position. Losing a key player now is the kind of thing that could completely change the team's fate. Detroit had been praised for finally finding a balance between offense and defense. The defensive line was applying pressure well, the pass rush was improving, and the secondary was beginning to show consistency. But now, with this string of injuries, everything is once again in doubt. Will the group be able to maintain the same level of intensity? Will the front office look for someone on the market to fill the gap left by Arnold? League sources are already beginning to speculate that the Lions front office may be considering a trade. And if that happens, there could be some big action. What's certain is that Dan Campbell won't let the team crumble. He's built a culture of resilience, of players who rise even when all seems lost. But this new challenge will test the limits of that philosophy. And for Detroit fans, now is the time to hold your breath and hope the worst doesn't happen, that Arnold can return this season and that the defense can reinvent itself. Because if there's one thing this team has proven, it's that they don't know what it's like to give up. Leave your opinion in the comments and get ready, because new updates on Terrion Arnold's physical condition may emerge in the coming hours, and you'll want to know first. Stay tuned, because we're on to the next update.
The Detroit Lions have just become the center of news no one expected. The team, which had been showing consistency and solidity in recent weeks, has once again been hit by a devastating series of injuries, and now the situation has reached a critical point. The problem is so serious that there are already strong rumors that General Manager Brad Holmes may be about to make a bold move in the trade market, targeting a big name to bolster the defense. This has just happened, and it's taking all fans by surprise. Rookie cornerback Terrion Arnold, one of the team's top prospects, is expected to be placed on injured reserve after a shoulder injury suffered in Week 5. Before we reveal all the details about who Arnold's replacement might be, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and interact in the comments with an emoji. The truth is, the Lions' defense is in shambles. First, DJ Reed, one of the most exciting signings of the offseason, suffered a hamstring injury and will be out for at least 3 more weeks. Then came veteran Taylor Decker, the cornerstone of the offensive line, who finally missed a game after battling a persistent shoulder injury since Week 1. And now, the most painful blow. Terrion Arnold, the rookie who had been playing at a high level and establishing himself as a key player in the secondary, is also expected to be out indefinitely. With him out, the outlook has become daunting. The Lions now only have Rock Ya-Sin, Amik Robertson, and the recently promoted Trey Flowers as immediate options at the position. In other words, the depth on the roster has simply disappeared. That's why NFL sources say Brad Holmes is already seriously considering a trade. And the name that's coming up strongly in internal conversations is Cleveland Browns cornerback Greg Newsome II. Newsome is a young, experienced player with a solid career, now entering his 5th year in the league. He's played most of the Browns' games since arriving, racking up 178 total tackles and already adding 23 in the first 5 weeks of this season alone. He's known for his consistency, his ability in short coverage, and his intelligence in reading opponents' routes. He's not the kind of player who draws attention to his numbers, but he's exactly the kind of defender who makes a defense work. And what's most interesting is that rumors about the Lions' interest in Newsome aren't new. USA Today reporter Jeff Riston had already mentioned the possibility of Detroit being interested in the player a few weeks ago. And now with Arnold's injury, everything indicates that talks could really heat up. Holmes has demonstrated in other trade windows that he's not afraid to act quickly when he feels the team needs immediate help. That was the case when he sought Zadarius Smith last year in a trade with the Browns themselves. And it could be the case again now. But fans might wonder, is Newsome really the right guy to solve the problem? It's important to understand the context. Reed and Arnold formed an extremely versatile duo. Reed is an aggressive cornerback, always ready to intercept the misplaced pass, while Arnold has distinguished himself with his physical play and one-on-one coverage. It's virtually impossible to replace the combined impact of these two players. However, Newsome can offer stability. He's a young defender, only 25, and still has room for growth. And in a system like that of Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, there's room for him to develop even further. Detroit has a thriving defensive culture, and Newsome could fit perfectly into that disciplined, intense mindset. The price, however, could be the biggest obstacle. According to analysts, a trade for Greg Newsome would likely require something around a 4th-round pick, possibly more than what the Lions offered in the Zadarius Smith deal. Cleveland, currently in the process of restructuring, may be willing to listen to offers, especially if it can secure draft capital in return. This puts Detroit in an interesting position. Without a 3rd-round pick in 2026, the team would have to balance the desire to bolster its defense with the need for future flexibility. Still, some say the moment calls for action. With the NFC increasingly competitive and the Lions trying to maintain their position as one of the top contenders in the conference, waiting could be costly. Behind the scenes, there's a sense of urgency. Sources close to the franchise say the coaching staff is evaluating not only Newsome but also other options on the market. Still, the Browns player is seen as the most realistic target and the one who would best fit Glenn's scheme. Furthermore, Newsome has a history of durability, something essential for a team plagued by injuries. Meanwhile, fans are experiencing a mix of anxiety and concern. No one wants to relive the nightmare of past seasons when the defense was the weak point that prevented the team from competing at a high level. Terrion Arnold's status is expected to be officially confirmed in the coming days, and all indications is that he will indeed be placed on injured reserve. This would keep him out for at least 4 weeks, and depending on the severity, possibly until the end of the regular season. The loss is enormous, not only because of the player's talent, but also because of the impact he was making on and off the field. Arnold was one of the defense's vocal leaders, even as a rookie, and his infectious energy made a difference in the locker room. Now it remains to be seen whether Brad Holmes will act quickly and surprise everyone with another bold move. The Lions are at a crossroads. Either they rely on inexperienced names to handle the pressure, or they will go to the market for someone to keep alive the flame of this aggressive defense that excites fans so much. One thing is certain, the decision made in the next few hours could determine the course of the season. So, fans, do you think Detroit should go all in on Greg Newsome, or would it be better to bet on someone from the current roster and save the draft capital? Comment below to interact, send lots of emojis. Let's interact a lot in the video so that this news reaches more Detroit Lions fans. A hug, and until the next update, stay tuned for notifications.